Hello, everyone. This is Chris. Time got away from us a little bit this week, so we weren't able to record this week's episode. That is not to say that the episode isn't coming. You will get more Star Wars content at the end of this week, hopefully, if we can have the stars align and we can have all the deities work together and bring world peace and child hunger and slavery. I think we'll be able to get that episode out. But in the meantime, here's a very special games and stuff episode between me and Thrak where we talk about everything but Gears of War and a little bit of Gears of War. I hope you guys enjoy. Hello, hello. Welcome to a novel console. This is a special episode where a buddy of mine and I are going to talk about a game. I want to force Karen to do this eventually with books, but apparently she doesn't have any friends. But we're going to go ahead and do this with Thrak. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, Chris, it's great to be here, man. It's great to be the first guest on the video game only show. We don't read books. I haven't been literate since I was 9. So, we are here talking game. Okay, what RPG we talking today? We going to be talking Dragon Quest 4? Are we going to be talking Shining Tears? Maybe Atrarian Odyssey 3? Because you know I have some things to say about that. What game we talking today?
So, we have taken a shitload of testosterone and steroids, and we're just gonna talk Gears of War instead. A man's game.
Wait.
No feelings, just shooting.
Wait. Gears of War. Oh, that's what you made me play 3 of, wasn't it? Ah, shit.
It was your idea to start with, so don't complain.
No, don't spread these misinformation lies, okay?
Thrak
okay,
is a fake RPG gamer. He likes
No, stop it.
He likes to shoot manly men. What was that? The fucking Machinima YouTube poop video. We are manly men. wait. Fuck, I forgot the song.
The manliest men.
Like, do the helicopter. The helicopter. When in doubt, whip it out. When in doubt, whip it out.
that is you're pulling that out, man. That is very old.
It is.
But yes.
Man,
yes,
every
yes,
time I see it, I have to share it. It's just so great.
It is good. But yes, we did play the Gears of War trilogy, i.e. the first 3. We co-opted them, which I feel like is the way to go for Gears of War. I have beaten the first 2 single player many years ago, so getting that co-op experience was definitely worth it.
Yeah, I
but
don't think I ever had either an extra Xbox controller or a friend that would care enough to actually go through Gears of War. Because I did play 1, 2, and 3 back when they came out like 10 years ago.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
I played them, I think, because I remember I got my 360 basically in 2005, 2006-ish. It was probably the only console I was there at the start, and yeah, I picked a good console to start with.
Yeah, you did.
Like at the beginning. But when they were showing like the Gears of War on, the TVs and such, I was like, "Ooh, that looks really interesting." That somehow clicked with my adolescent middle school brain who just wanted to chainsaw things and see gore, as much gore as humanly possible, because you have to remember in the mid 2000s this really was the aesthetic for a lot of games.
It was gray and gore.
Yes, I call it video games angsty teenage phase, where everything had to be like serious and bloody and like swearing and muscles, and it just like we couldn't do Nintendo baby shit anymore. We were grown up, damn it. But if you look at gaming now, we're back to the baby shit. So everything kind of comes full circle in a way.
See, I do kind of have an opinion on that. It's not that we were super serious, let's be adults, let's be bleak and death and shit. It was more like Nintendo wants to get the whole family in, so they don't really have anything for me right now.
It could be. To
Because
me, I kind of I chalk it up to I think video games wanted to become more of an art form at the time
I mean,
as
yeah, because
technology
you
was
had the Uncharted
improving.
and shit.
Oh yeah, you had Metal Gear.
Hmm.
Metal Gear was the big one for that, for the cinematic stuff. But like the technology was getting better, the fan base was growing, more people were getting into it, and so you had all these different ideas kind of swirling around, and there were so many people probably at the time were told, oh, video games are kid stuff, they're for children, and I'm sure you had people like the id Johns, the Kojimas, and other guys being like, no, 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 we can do more than this. And I would almost say Gears of War is kind of an extension of that. But when you play the games, you realize that they're not taking themselves that seriously. And
No,
I often wonder if people were taking the Gears of War games that seriously even back then.
I mean they are kind of telling somewhat of a serious story. There are definitely stakes throughout the whole Gears franchise, but as a whole, it feels campy with a
Yes.
serious undertone.
Yes. I think I forget which one of us said it when we were playing it. It might have been you who said that this is essentially like an '80s action movie.
I think we both said that a bunch of times.
Okay. Yeah, because it makes perfect sense. Like the whole setup is very '80s action movie. Like, oh, it's very over the top. It's very it's hammy a little bit, but there are like actual emotional bits that happen that keep you going, much
Yeah.
like say a Predator, for example. Like it felt very Schwarzenegger at times in the story and like the character progressions, even in some of the more like emotional moments, which I found we were joking at them. I think that's just how we are.
Yeah.
But especially with the whole Dom character
Man,
arc,
poor Dom.
which has been told a lot, so I don't
Yeah.
think
It's
we're
like
in
they
heavy
killed
spoiler territory.
they killed Dom. Um you
They
have
did.
you have to pay to listen to this unless it's like 2 months from now and you're listening to this on regular feed. But
I mean, if you're paying to listen to this, you probably know what happens.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
if you're listening to this podcast, you probably know what happens already.
one would hope. One would hope.
Yeah.
But
I mean, we really
it
don't have
was.
any children listeners. Most of the people that listen are my age. So,
Oh, that's good.
yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
So I guess like should we just start with the first game? Should we get a little bit more in depth with the story, or what are you thinking?
Um, I'm not sure because I really don't have any notes. I've played these games a shit ton of times, and I always enjoy them. Be it the remaster of the original Gears or the Xbox Series S versions of the 360 games of 2 and 3. Like
Yes.
I can pretty much just give opinions on the whole thing. I don't have a structure, so maybe just talk in general about the whole thing, unless you have specific stuff that you want to bring up and talk about.
I mean, the only thing I can really bring up off the top of my head is the success of these games caused it to become one of the prominent franchises for the Xbox brand.
Yeah, I mean, what do they
There's
have?
that.
Halo,
Halo, Gears, and Forza. That's the
exactly.
big three, right? And it's so weird to me to think about like Gears of War as like a big like Xbox franchise. Like Halo makes perfect sense. But everything else like beyond that, I always find a hard time because I think it's because Microsoft never really had they never took first party exclusives that seriously as say the other two did in terms of
How
like, oh,
old?
we need them.
How old were you when these games came out?
Let's see, when Gears of War the first one came out, it was 2006. I was 12.
That's probably why you don't remember a lot of fanfare. And,
Probably not.
and honestly, growing up in Puerto Rico, there wasn't a lot of fanfare, but the people that were fans of these games and wanted these games, they made a whole fucking scene about it. Like during, I think it was for the Gears of War 3 midnight, The old website that I was with, we hosted the midnight event at the local game store, and it was fucking packed. There were people out the ass lined outside waiting for their copy of Gears. And personally, I bought an Xbox 360, an arcade version. I played Gears. Eventually, I got a PS3, got rid of the Xbox. Gears 2 gets announced. I buy another fucking Xbox, play the shit out of it, get rid of the Xbox. Gears 3 gets announced, and I do the same shit all over again. Like, these games have their fans, and there was a ton of fanfare, at least where I was. I don't know about the rest of the world, but people were like, you're playing fucking Gears.
Yeah, it was a big deal. It was a new IP. It was being backed by one of the big three.
Mm-hmm.
And it was being done by Epic Games, which it's so funny that there are a lot of people who don't realize Epic Games made these. Because when you think of Epic Games these days, what do you think of? What's the first thing?
Gears, but it's because I'm old.
But like now, what are they known for now?
They're
Fortnite.
They're known for making cutlery for your table.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest game in the world.
Yeah,
And
fork knife.
I work with somebody who plays a lot of Fortnite, and I told him I was playing through the Gears games, and I was like, "Oh, they were also made by Epic, the same people who made Fortnite." And he looked at me like I had just told him like I had like given an alien a hand job or something. Like his face was very like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Yeah." In fact, if you go through Epic's like gamography, it's all over the place. They did a lot of like crazy shit all over the place. Well, they're known for didn't they do Unreal?
Yeah, I think
Unreal
so.
Tournament?
I think that's a Cliff Lesinski thing. Like, I have never heard of Epic doing something that's bad, that has flopped or has been terrible.
Yeah, because even Fortnite is solid. What I played of it, I enjoyed. I don't know if there's any Gears influence in it, but
the thing that I don't like about Fortnite is it's like the toxic fandom, dude. That fandom is on Smash levels of terrible.
that's not surprising.
So let me see if I can find a list of games that Epic has made. Subsidiaries and divisions, video games. They made the Unreal Engine.
Yes,
They created the Epic Games
which
Store.
was Unreal Tournament. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the Epic Games Store. Oof.
Let me see.
That's its own thing.
I just have here like a bunch of their, what's it called? Their branches, but Unreal list of video games by Epic. Here we go. They've been around since '91 apparently with CZT.
That sounds right.
Best of CCT, CCT's Revenge, Super CCT, Adventure Math, Kilo Blaster. So
they made Jazz Jackrabbit. I know
did.
that game. I know that game.
Like a lot of these games, they're games, but eventually when Unreal came around, like all of these are fucking bangers. Like Unreal Tournament,
Shadow Complex,
Gears of War, Unreal
Bulletstorm.
Tournament 3, fucking Bulletstorm.
Hell yeah, Bulletstorm. I played that game many years ago.
That game is great. Fucking Wolverine as a drunk that can slide and kick and shit. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, they published Fall Guys. I guess they published Alan Wake Remastered. And they're publishing Alan Wake 2. Apparently. Yeah, so like Epic have their hands in a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird to think that probably the thing I feel like without Gears they'd probably be doing just fine, but I think the success of Gears really helped propel them to be able to make something like a Fortnite, like
yeah, but without Gears, we never would have gotten Bulletstorm. That's a given.
Oh yeah, because Bulletstorm is an example of the Gears of War influence, which I think is something people talk about a lot with Gears. Is if you think about it, it's the first one anyway. Is one of like the most influential games in like modern gaming in the last like 15 years.
See,
because everybody who is like sick and tired of the cover-based third-person shooter that has a focus on story, you can blame it all on Gears of War 1. Because before that game, there really wasn't that many. There was a few. but not a lot.
No.
And you could even argue its cover system wasn't even original. But it was the coming together of all the different elements and presenting it in this big next-gen way that made everybody go, that's what we should do.
Mm-hmm.
And everything from Uncharted to Mass Effect to even fucking Max Payne 3 has a Gears of War influence.
Yeah.
And that is something you cannot take
It's like
away.
all shooters, all modern shooters post 2005 have Resident Evil 4 and Gears of War elements all over it.
Especially if they're third-person shooters.
Yes. Yes. Hell, fucking Star Fox Assault feels Gears of War-y sometimes. When you have
when you're on foot?
Yeah, when you're on foot and you have the machine gun and you're running around and you're just blasting shit left and right, feels kind of Gears of War-y.
A little bit. Yeah. I think at that time people were trying to really figure out how to make the third-person shooter work. Because if you go back to like the PS2 era and try to play some of these third-person shooters, like one I have a soft spot for, the game Freedom Fighters, for example, they are rather clunky and they don't control very well, and you can tell the idea of a third-person shooter is still an idea. It's like a far-off sort of idea. Because if you think about it, by that time... Yeah, work in progress, because by that time, the first-person shooter had basically been... Once Halo came out, that was sort of, first-person shooters,
done.
That's what they are.
And
then Call of Duty solidified that.
Yeah, like Call of Duty refined everything that Halo had established.
Exactly. So the first-person shooter was a done deal at that point. But it felt like, for a long time, the third-person shooter, it was just taking a while to really figure itself out.
It was a struggle, because as much as people love Grand Theft Auto, it's a fucking terrible shooter game. The shooting,
it's not a shooter.
Is fucking trash.
Yes.
Man, I hate that trilogy for the PS2. It's so bad. But it did so many good things for the gaming environment and for the open world genre and sandboxes and shit. But it's really fucking bad shooting.
Yeah. I mean, the influence of GTA, I think we could make a whole nother episode about that.
I don't want to.
That's fair. That's perfectly fair. It's just there's a lot to talk about with that era, because I was very into the GTAs at the time.
To be honest,
but
True Crime is better than GTA.
Not sure if I can agree with that. So...
You have to. I'm the host.
See, I liked the first Saints Row more than the PS2 GTAs.
Yeah, I can agree with. I can agree with that.
Yeah, but my favorite GTA is 4. So what do I know?
Oh man, why?
Because it's fun, and I love Nico.
Why are you squeezing your forehead when you say it's fun? It's like you regret saying that it's fun.
No, I don't regret saying that at all. I love Nico. He's my favorite protagonist. And there is something about that Liberty City that just feels so like lived in a way that none of the PS2 ones or even GTA 5 really matched. There was just something about 4 that really spoke to me. I mean, maybe it was 2008 and that was like the new GTA, and I was very into the hype at the time.
Yep.
And I got sucked into it, and in fact, I have it over there on my shelf. And whenever I pop it in and mess around with it, I have fun with it. Maybe it's because it wasn't milked to death like GTA 5, so it feels a little bit more special. I don't know.
It might.
But I've always liked GTA 4, and it has probably some of the best DLC any game has ever had.
I mean, I'm not a fan, so I'm not gonna say no, but I can see that. I did play a lot of GTA 4. I hate it every second. But I can see people loving it, because I remember being in high school and people like talking about it nonstop. It was like, it's just another fucking GTA game. I don't get it. But
it was the first one on the next gen, so it was a big deal at the
that
time.
it's true that it was.
And I remember people being really upset at the time when it was coming out on PS3 and 360 simultaneously, because originally
It was all
the PS2
PlayStation.
trilogy,
Yeah.
it was PlayStation 2 first, and,
And
then
then
Xbox
Xbox.
and PC came a year later.
Right.
So when they came out at the same time, all the Sony ponies, which were still a thing back then, were so upset. You know, they were so upset. But
Poor
I played
boys.
it on 360.
Yeah, no.
Oh, they're fine. They're doing just.
They got over it.
So
If not,
yeah.
they need some sort of therapy or something.
In fact, weirdly enough, I remember hearing some Sony people complain about Gears of War being 360 only at the time.
I'm gonna be honest. I was one of them because
Mm-hmm.
all of my friends were PlayStation. I was on PlayStation 2, and I was like, I wish I could play Gears with my friends.
Yeah.
If they would have ported it over, which I think they did eventually start porting one over, and it was like 60% done, but they couldn't get it to run smoothly, so they canceled it.
And if I remember correctly, that's Gears of War 3.
I think so.
Yes.
I think
Because if I remember correctly, at that time, Gears was a 50-50 IP between Epic and Microsoft.
Really?
And then after, I believe so. I could be wrong on this. After, I'm sure somebody will correct me, but after the third game, Epic wanted to move on. They were done. But Microsoft still wanted to keep making them. So I think they bought Epic out so they could own the IP outright, and then that's when they established, what's the studio that makes Gears games?
The Coalition.
Coalition. They established the Coalition with some of the dudes from Epic who made them, and then that's what they've been doing now, essentially. That sounds right in my head. I could be wrong.
No,
on
that does sound about right. Yeah, because I think
because it's kind of similar to the Halo Bungie thing as well.
because Cliff did close out the story in 3 perfectly. Like he tied all of the knots.
Yeah, like what's really good about the trilogy 1 through 3, as you said, it tells a complete arc.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could stop here, not play any of the others, and you'd probably be just fine, because it's really the storytelling. I just think in this trilogy is done really really well. Because I remember when I replayed Gears of War 1. Well, when I played it at the time, I loved it, but when I replayed it, my thought was it's a little underwhelming as its own game. Because if you take the story as just like a singular experience, it just feels kind of run of the mill. You know, there's nothing too exciting about it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you treat it as the first part of a trilogy, it makes so much more sense. Because it feels like Gears 2 is the logical next step, and Gears 2 is such a, in my opinion, an improvement over everything from Gears of War 1. Like, story-wise, control-wise, everything just felt better, in my opinion. And then when we were playing Gears 3, I was surprised at how well Gears 3 felt.
And looked.
Like, to me, it didn't feel like... And looked, yeah. It didn't really feel like a game from 2010. You know? It felt more current than that, really. Which maybe just goes to show how well they've refined the formula, or just how good the dev team was working on the game.
Let me see.
You
Gears.
know, like, it was...
Gears 3 was September 20th in 2011.
Oh, it's 2011. Okay.
Yes. So what's that? 12 years ago?
Yes.
In September? And it still looks
Yes.
and plays great.
Oh, yeah. Like, it's amazing to me how some late era 360 games look really good, even by today's standards.
Yeah.
I'll get off topic again, but when I was getting a bunch of my 360 collection, one of the games I got was the first Castlevania Lords of Shadow.
Oh, that
And when
game
I popped that
game
into
is so good.
when I popped it in my 360, I was surprised at how good it looked. I'm like, this is a 360 game?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this looks like a mid-late gen Xbox One title. Like, it was really nice.
It was
It's kind of a...
I feel like that was Kojima. That was one of Kojima's things being Kojima's. Like, it has to look good. I want to be 90 and for it to look good.
Yeah, because is it Fox? No, Fox Engine wasn't a thing yet.
No,
No.
that was like a joint game where they threw Kojima in and he was like supervisor or something, just so that they could put his name on the box. But like he
Yeah.
really didn't do anything. He might have just said, "Oh, I want the graphics to look good," and that's it.
In fact, do you know the dev team for Lords of Shadow?
Uh, isn't it that Spanish studio?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the name, but yes,
Yes, Mercury Steam.
that one. Yes, the ones that did
Yes.
the Metroid remake
Metroid Dread.
and Dread.
Yep, they did Sam. Yep, and they started with doing the Lords of Shadow trilogy. They did all three of them.
And the 3DS game was really fucking good. And
I have it. I have it over there.
have you played it?
I played a bit of it.
Play through
And
the whole thing. Because
I
have you played Lords of Shadow 2?
no, that's the only one I don't have.
Okay, so you play Lords of Shadow, the 3DS game, and like the story, they unfold like so many threads in the 3DS game that I wish that Lords of Shadow 2 would have been as good as it should have been, because it could have been an amazing trilogy of games, but it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So that 3DS game is it. You're gonna love it, and you're gonna be mad after you finish it because of how bad Lords of Shadow 2 turned out to be.
Sounds good, man.
You should definitely do it. But getting back to Gears, what are your general thoughts over the whole story, the characters, the world, the insanity that is living in what's the planet's name? Sarah?
I think it's Terra.
Yeah. What the insanity that is living? It's like it's just going into the rain, you can die. Going out at night, you can die. It's fucking horrific world.
Like, if I could compare Gears of War to anything, and you're probably not going to be shocked when I make this comparison, it's Warhammer. And
Yeah,
it
okay.
is. It really is. Like, the cogs are space marines.
Mm-hmm.
The whole area is just engulfed in war, and there's like essentially no hope. It's just a constant conflict. Now, I don't think Gears is as absolutist about that stance as, say, Warhammer 40K is, but I mean, it's an obvious influence. I think most people could see it. But with Gears, in fact, I did a little bit of the Gears of reading of the books, and in the books, they're definitely trying to go for a more sort of hopeful, like trying to solve everything and get back to normal. But in the games, I don't think it's really stated as much. It's just like, oh, we're trying to kill as many of the locust horde as we can, just to survive. But there is sort of a survivalist nature going within like the humans, because they're like, we can get back to everything before the what was it, the Great Emergence?
The Emergence Day, E-Day.
Yeah, Emergence Day. Yes.
See, but the thing is that when E-Day happened, there was basically a world war going on, because all of the countries were fighting over emulsion, which had become the new energy source. And before that, they were fighting over other resources. And before that, they were fighting over other fucking resources. So the world of Sarah has been in war for decades before the Locust came out.
So maybe it is closer to 40K.
I mean, it's like the planet basically is dying the entire time, and when the Locusts come out, it's dying even faster. It's like now you
Very
have to
true.
sink cities to fucking drown them, and it's not working.
Yeah. Yeah, and weirdly enough, it explains the color palette.
Yeah,
Because that was a big thing at the time as well, was Gears being like, oh, it's all brown and gray and it's all very drab, but it's a complete wasteland. It's just, yeah, as you said, war for decades in all of these areas, so it kind of makes sense there wouldn't be a huge amount of color variety. But also, I think it's meant to emphasize just how drab and awful everything has turned. Like, the color has been sucked out of life itself.
I mean, like if you see pictures of a war zone or like an area that had just been bombed, it's gray and brown.
Yeah, it's very desolate.
Yeah, so the color palette does make sense. Now, in Gears 3, when you go to that is it a locust city? The island. When
Yes.
it's green, it's gold, it's got colors and shit because it's untouched by war. So the color palette makes sense for like the populated areas, for the places where humans are hiding out, for the places that are attacked constantly. Because eventually you get to a place where it's very good looking.
Yeah, yeah, and to give Epic credit, they did as best as they could with like the level design throughout the trilogy and trying to make as much interesting scenery and areas as they could because there's so many times you go underground and fight the locusts there. There's so many times you're in these varied buildings or that time where it's I think it's your underground but there's like all the yellow like lava sort of flowing around you. There's a lot of industry and even in this war, yeah, there's a lot of machinery and these giant, like gothic sort of statues and this big architecture and everything. And it's kind of like Warhammer 40k, where it just has a lot of that sort of similar aesthetic to it. But
Yeah.
but even with all of that, I think the story of the first three games, I think is told really well for what it is. It's not overdoing it. It's not being pretentious. It's not trying to be something that it's not. Like it recognizes that this is a war story that, you know, has a campy silliness to it, but the character interactions and certain character arcs are taken much more seriously than others. Especially Dom, as has been mentioned. You know, the first time you see him, he's rescuing Marcus from jail. You know, basically like, hey, we need your help with all this locust shit going on, and he keeps going on about wanting to save his wife. And you know, it's like she's out there, man. She's out there, and I'm gonna save Maria, and everything's gonna be just fine. And it's almost like he's clinging on to it as like it's the only thing he has left. That it's almost he's convincing himself that she's still out there, even though probably in the back of his head he realizes that she's not.
Yeah.
But Gears 2 has that big scene. Everybody knows the scene where they finally you find the pod that she is in, and just she's a skeleton basically.
See,
She's nothing.
I like that about the series, the three games, the trilogy. I like that they gave some characters a story and some they're just there. Like
Yes.
Baird and Cole, good characters. They're just there to complement the story. They don't need to have their own story. Just them being there, helping out, having their own gripes and shit makes them. I feel like it makes them good characters to have around. Not everybody needs a story. Now, that way they could focus on Dom on the first two games. And then in the third game, then you can deal with all of Marcus's daddy issues. Because that's the whole third game, what it's about.
Yeah, but they do a good job building up that arc with Marcus in the first two games, and that they explain, you know, Marcus's connection to his dad. In fact, you even visit their house in the first game, and then I believe in one of the books, it basically details that Marcus was like a rich kid, like he was a spoiled rich kid of privilege under his dad. But then, of course, all this war happened, and it kind of tore away some of that privilege, and it definitely caused an emotional rift between the two of them, as we saw through the first three games. That even at the end of the third game, it's like something Marcus has to carry with him, you know, because his father sacrifices himself to kill the Locust Queen at the end of the third
to
game.
kill the entire horde.
Yes, to try, at least to attempt to. We're not sure if he actually did or not, but you know, we'll
I haven't
find out
gone
when
into
we play.
four far enough to know. Eventually,
Yeah, we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out.
We shall find out.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, Marcus and Dom are clearly the two main characters. They're the ones they're putting all the work into, all the effort into, and they are taken seriously, and I believe they are done well. You know, it's not like Mass Effect in terms of like the writing. It's not amazing, but I think it definitely serves its purpose and is very solid. And that's fine. You know, I think sometimes, especially with AAA games, people may expect too much from the writing of it, and that it has to be this, you know, big thing. You know, it has to have like all these different characters and all this really clever writing, and it doesn't really need to. Like,
no, I mean
the story serves the game.
Yeah, I mean, you have these
And
two
Gears does
very
that.
solid characters who have to deal with the whole thing, and just I feel like their bond and their trust in each other carries the story well enough. Is these two dudes who think of each other as brothers, just trying to survive and end the war.
Yes, and their respect and I would even say love for each other shows.
Yeah,
And in that scene where Dom sacrifices himself in 3, it is a big sorry, Albert. It is a big crushing moment for Marcus cuz
yeah,
when that happens, all the focus is on Marcus and him sort of having to cope with that, like he's lost his best friend.
hmm
And it feels like he grieves that loss harder than his own father.
and it's like,
And that he was expecting his father to be gone.
yeah,
Like he was kind of preparing for that.
and it's like
You know?
everybody knows how much they cared for each other because
Yeah.
I noticed that Marcus only mentioned 2 times that Dominic was dead. When Baird comes in and starts giving him shit, he's like, Dominic is dead, and Baird is like, fuck, that's heavy. Like, are you okay, Marcus?
Yeah.
And then when he tells his dad Dominic is dead, then the dad is like, oh shit, are you okay? It's like everybody
Yes.
knows how important they were to each other.
And in fact, it's one thing I would kind of criticize with the Gears 3 story, and that's I think Dom's death could have been held till a little bit later. Because I believe it happens about, what, the 2/3 way, roughly? It's like the end of Act 2 almost.
Like almost a little bit
Because it
past
feels like,
halfway, like 2/3
Yeah,
is
'cause-
right. A little bit less than 2/3, something like that.
yeah, like it doesn't have to be the very end of the game.
Yeah.
But I think from what I remember when we were playing it, after Dom's death, there's a good chunk of the game left. And it almost feels like the wind's kind of taken out of you, and that a lot of the story progression, it feels like it just kind of goes down a little bit. Maybe that was intentional, that they wanted
I mean,
you
if-
to feel down with Marcus as you were still, because you're like, shit, this main character that we all like is dead, but we still have to keep going.
I mean, that does make sense. I do like that view because it does give you the not the I'm gonna say illusion because I can't think of a better word of shit is gonna be bad, but you have to keep going, and terrible fucking shit is gonna happen, but you still have something to do, and you have to
Yes.
do it. So
But I
I
feel like-
like that way of thinking that you brought up of how it feels after Dominic dies.
But I still feel I guess just thinking about it from like a storytelling pacing way, I feel like they could have made it go a little bit later, and then you would still have enough time to kind of wrap everything up. Because it almost feels like the game drags a little bit near the end.
Yeah,
Just a tad, not a huge amount.
yeah, that we could have done
But-
without that whole underwater scene.
Oh, yeah, I didn't care for that at
Yeah,
all.
I mean, I was cool with going to get the submarine and like get it to the water, but actually having to be in the fucking water, I didn't care at all for that.
Yeah, that part was kind of weird.
That could have been a
that's the thing,
cutscene.
Yes, because really, other than that, from the top of my head, it's like Gears 1 and 2. I think storytelling and pacing were very well done.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of downtime. It just kind of moves you along nicely through it. And then 3, it feels like they're trying to experiment a little bit with it, which good job on them. But hopefully the sequels do a little bit better job with that pacing, because it just brings it down a little bit.
Yeah.
But one thing I can give the trilogy credit for is I think the gameplay improves every single installment.
Yeah, no, definitely it does. It's we didn't play the original Gears. We played the remake, remaster, whatever the fuck that game was, the anniversary edition.
It's called Gears of War Ultimate Edition, and I believe it is a remake for the Xbox One, but it's almost treated the same way as almost like Metroid Prime Remaster is.
Yeah, it
where
feels like the
like
exact same gameplay, the same limitations that you had in the original game are there. So none of the new additions that came throughout the series are added to it. Because that came out after 3, and in 3 you already had floor executions, and that's not something that's in that Ultimate Edition.
yeah, because I gotta say the first Gears is sluggish. Like you definitely feel the weight of like the cog armor as you are playing the game, and it definitely feels intentional that they want it to be like it's like your guys are heavy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're not just gonna be sprinting. You know, just wistfully. You're not Sonic down there.
No.
You know, you're a giant cog machine, like almost a human machine, having to do all of this stuff. But the gameplay that they're trying to go with that, like the gameplay feels like it is trying to be a bit fast paced, with like running into cover, hopping around through the cover, trying to flank and go around. It feels like they don't really gel as well as they should, especially at the very end when you're going through the train. And it definitely feels like in that train bit they want you to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're like kind of like fuck the cover, just keep blasting and going because it's like the emotional high point. But with the sluggish controls, it doesn't really help as well. But when you get to Gears 2, everything's a bit looser. Everything feels a little bit better. You still feel that weight, but it's not as bad. It's definitely smoother. But by the third game, almost in conjunction with everybody having less cog armor, everything flows really, really well. It's almost like, I know I keep saying it, but I would almost compare it to Mass Effect in that the gameplay just got better each installment.
Oh no, yeah, definitely it did.
Yeah, because Mass Effect 3 is the best playing of the 3.
Now that you mentioned that weight to the movement and whatnot, it almost sounds like football players. They have all this equipment on top of them, and yet they still have to move fast.
Yeah.
So it kind of feels like you got these super soldiers wearing football equipment, and they have to.
Oh yeah, like the big shoulder pads.
Yeah, they have to keep moving, otherwise they're gonna get killed.
And if we're being honest, Cole, who I love, Coltrane, he definitely has the personality of a football player.
He was a football player.
Oh, 100%. Well, he's the Gears football. I forget what it's called. Because there's like a sport in Gears.
Better than Blitzball. Let's just call it that.
I mean, anything's better than Blitzball. Anything.
Only gamers will get that joke. But
the people who watch this show.
Yeah, watch Burger Champ be mad.
Oh yeah, he likes Blitzball, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, I can't agree with that. Anyway, we'll hear about it. Don't worry. Hi, Burger.
Yeah, he'll get mad at us.
He always does.
I gotta be honest, dude. Playing this game alone is great, but playing it with somebody else and just going through the entire campaign and having the exact same goal is just above and beyond. Like, that just pushes the game to a whole nother level.
Oh yeah, like Gears, you can tell it was made with co-op campaign in mind.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, having two strong protagonists, together is like their relationship and everything. And it's definitely trying to emphasize the whole like teamwork aspect of it. It definitely feels like that was their goal, and then throw in Xbox Live, which was the grand staple of online console gaming at the time. Everything just kind of came together. But speaking of Xbox Live, did you ever play Gears multiplayer?
Yes, I did. I actually played a lot of 2, but I played more of 3. I remember getting to like level 30 in 3, and it was a lot of fun. Man, it's still going. Like, people still play Gears 3 online.
Oh, I didn't know the servers are still up. We should have played a round or two.
We should have. We could still do it, but
yeah, we would get destroyed.
Yeah, we would. I have this friend, and anytime she streams, it's just Gears 3 online, and she is a fucking savage. Like, she fucking mows people down left and right. It's like, you can tell she's been playing this game for 11 years.
See, I respect people who have that dedication, because I do not.
No.
Once I beat a game, I'm usually on to the next thing.
Yep. That's how I was with fucking uh, three hopes. I was ready for it to end. It's a fun game, but it had to end at some point.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I am.
I did. I really did. Just that last one, I should have taken a break before I tackled that third house.
That's fair. I still don't know if I'm ever gonna tackle a Muso game. I'm trying to find the one to do.
It's the Zelda one, the original Hyrule Warriors. It's that one, definitely. That's the one that you should try.
See, I keep hearing that the guy who oversees the Muso games at Koei Tecmo, somebody once asked him, they were like, if you could, like, what Muso game would you make for, like, what series would you like to do? And he said that he wants to do a Mario one. And so I'm kind of, I'm holding out.
That would be for fucking crazy.
Like Mushroom Warriors, Mushroom Kingdom Warriors.
Mushroom Kingdom Warriors, yes.
I will buy that, and I will put 300 hours into it, or however long it takes to do everything, because that sounds beautiful to me. Like, imagine Mario throwing a giant fireball, and he just destroys like 50 Goombas in one explosion. Like, that's perfect right there. That's beautiful, and I would really enjoy that.
I have two that I would absolutely love. The first one is Star Wars Warriors.
I'm surprised they haven't done that.
Like, right? Like, have...
That seems obvious.
Exactly. Like, have all of the entire movies, all the TV shows and everything, just have, like, the characters, like, have the fucking Rey fighting fucking Qui-Gon or Darth Maul, just, like, mowing down legions and legions of troopers or clones or fucking robots or whatever. And the other one...
Imagine... Imagine doing the in episode 2 when they have like the giant droid fight in the Geonosis Coliseum. Imagine
exactly.
That. Okay, that's perfect.
So I don't know if you know Berserk.
I know Berserk.
So you know the part in Berserk where Guts kills 100 people?
Yes.
They did that in the Muso game, but instead of 100 people, it was 1,000 people. So you're just as Guts killing 1,000 people, and it is fucking crazy.
Which Muso game can you play as Guts?
It's Berserk, Band of the Golden Eagle or something like that. I have it digital. I need to get a physical copy, but I think the price on that shit went up because the creator died.
That's not the Dreamcast one, I think.
No. It's PS4 and Xbox, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's a modern one. Gotcha.
So the other Muso game that I would make is X-Men Warriors. Not even Marvel, just X-Men.
No, that makes sense.
I would love I would fucking love that game. Like Gambit, like throwing cards and like using the staff for Jubilee with her fucking fireworks. I would love it.
And even though Carradin's not here, a Lord of the Rings Muso would be pretty good too.
There kind of was one.
Which one was that?
Was it War in the North? It was like the last one that came out for Xbox 360 and PS3. Remember?
Yeah.
I remember
War the North.
Yeah, where you could play as either the good guys or the bad guys.
I didn't know that was a Muso game.
It's kind of a Muso, but it's not really a Muso.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, I know that one.
Yeah, but like an official Muso Lord of the Rings, that would be great.
Yeah. Like, just call it the War of the Ring. Bada boom, you're done.
The Ring Warriors of the Ring.
There you go.
Yeah, something like that. It'll work.
That sounds beautiful to me.
Yeah.
Do you think they could do a Gears of War Muso game? Probably not.
I would love it.
It would be fun, but it would be one that's like, how do you make this work?
How the fuck did they make Three Houses work?
I mean, you played it.
How did they make Persona work?
You just do it, I guess.
Exactly. Just give me General Rom and just throw me at a bunch of cogs. I'll have my fucking birdfish eat them all.
That sounds good. Maybe that's what Coalition should work on next.
Yeah.
Don't do a Gears 6. Let's do Gears Warriors.
Yeah, don't do Gears Tactics 2. Just do Gears Warriors.
Those tactics is fun. I liked it.
Yeah. But yeah, no. anything else you want to say about Gears? Anything else you want to cover? Any about the gameplay, the shooting or whatnot?
The shooting is pretty good, I think. I mean, with the cover-based third-person shooters, it often feels like the shooting is very kind of samey, one note. But I think for Gears, it handles it really well. Everything makes sense. I've always been a fan of the active reload system. I find it strange other games haven't attempted that more, but I've always really enjoyed that because it does add like just the tiniest. It's almost like a micro game. It has just a little micro game in there, but it doesn't take away from the balance of the combat, because the combat sections are almost always paced really, really well. Like, despite it being like a cover-based third-person shooter, it doesn't really benefit you to stay in cover the entire time. Like, the game definitely encourages you to move around and like hop out of cover and try to flank enemies, because enemies will try to flank you. And there's a lot of times they'll throw at you like these giant enemies that you can't even really cover and hide from, so you just kind of have to figure it out. There's a surprising amount of variety in the Gears gameplay, which I think was done really well overall. The shooting is really good. I love the executions. I mean, the chainsaw lancer,
the new lightsaber,
iconic.
It's the new lightsaber.
It's iconic, and there is something that still fills me with joy whenever I rev that chainsaw and I just cut a locust like right in half. It still feels good after all these years.
Like,
so they knew what they were doing.
I even though I hate most of the weapons except for the lancer and the long shot, they all have their own feeling and they all are usable, except for the handguns. The handguns fucking suck. But
yeah, the handguns are terrible. But it's like, if you want to be a sniper, if you want to be a shotgunner, even if you want to use the hammer burst, like, it's effective and it does what it's supposed to do. And I like how the games try to add more weapons later on. Like, you get flamethrowers, you get the giant rocket launchers, you get the classic lancer.
You get that super sniper rifle that chops anything in half that I kept picking up.
Yes. You loved that.
Oh, thing. I love that shit. Like, taking a fucking Cantus and sawing him in half from across the battlefield. That shit was great.
Yeah, and of course, the Hammer of Dawn, which is a really great weapon. Really, I think it's handled best in the first Gears. I think Gears 2 and 3 don't really handle the Hammer of Dawn well overall.
I mean, it's not... In 2, it's only really there at the end where you have to blow up that lambent Brumak.
Yeah, the giant Brumak.
And in 3, when you have to fight those, what was it, like 2 lambent berserkers?
Yeah, and at the very end when you're fighting the Locust Queen,
right?
Because you have to charge it up to use it, which I think is a really cool way of using it. But I really like how it's used in the first game a lot more, especially the scene where you're fighting that blind locust and you have to like drag her out of the building into the open and then use the Hammer of Dawn to knock her out because it's the only thing that'll kill her.
Right.
Like, it adds weirdly a horror element that Gears doesn't use all that much. Like, they definitely could add more like horror elements to the series.
They could, but then you would kind of miss the point of the cog, because the fucking locust and the lambent are the boogeyman, but you have the cog, which are just as big, just as strong, so they're the anti-boogeyman.
Yeah, and I'm not saying you have to make the whole thing like a survival horror game.
Yeah,
but like you could have more moments in the series where it's like, oh, like your weapons are gone, you are unarmed. And you have this like, and you have like a Brumak that's chasing you and you're unarmed. Like, how the fuck do I get out of this kind of thing? You know, you could definitely do
that. Could be done, yeah.
That here and there, here and there.
I mean, I feel like
Gears 1 handles it really well.
I feel like in 1, 2, and 3, and maybe Judgment to an extent, because we haven't played Judgment, I feel like there it wouldn't work, but in 4 and 5 it could, because these people are not soldiers. They're regular people that just happen to have ties to old coalition soldiers.
Okay. I haven't delved much into the games beyond 3, so
I see. But I mean, hey, if they take Marcus's guns away and I have a fucking berserker chasing me, I am hauling ass.
Oh yeah, I mean it would be fun to watch him like take a normal locust and just punch him to death.
That would be
'Cause I'm
great.
sure
Like,
that's exactly what he would do.
like if the ending of 3 would have been like the ending of Metal Gear Solid 4, where it's just the Queen and Marcus just punching the shit out of each other on top of a giant dead locust, that would have been great.
That's a 10 out of 10 right there.
Yeah, it is, and they're both shirtless, just like. And for some reason, they're super old, and the Queen is an old man instead of an old woman.
Exactly. But speaking of ratings, what would you rate the Gears trilogy out of 10?
So let me actually look for the scores, because I know that I just have the 3 score for this year. Let me see. Gears 3, I gave it an 8.5 out of 10.
Okay.
Last year, I gave Gears 2 8.5 out of 10, and the Gears Ultimate Edition 8 out of 10. So that's what, an 8 out of 10?
Overall?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably do about the same. Like, I'd probably give Gears 1 a 7.5, Gears 2 probably an 8, and then Gears 3 maybe like an 8, 8.5. So I think it would balance out to an 8 out of 10. Yeah, it was just a really solid trilogy of games that just made me go, Gears is probably my favorite Xbox franchise. I do need to give Halo another try, to be fair. I have the Master Chief. Collection. I should just try.
I mean, when you do, let me know. We'll go through them, because I play Halo, and when the Flood shows up, I'm done. Every single game, it's like that. Play Halo up until the Flood. I'm done after the Flood, because, oh man, the Flood sucks balls. They're fucking terrible.
Fair enough. And then I've played some Forza, and I like the Forza I've played, but it's definitely I need to do more of that to really gather an opinion on it, and I do need to give Fable another try.
Fable is good.
Because might be a hot take, I do not like Fable 1 at all.
That's the best one.
I honestly despise it, but it could be my fault because I was playing the 360 Anniversary Edition on my Xbox One, and I'm told that's not really a good way to play it. It's better to try it on a Series X because they fix some of the hardware issues that it had on the One for some reason. But from what I remember, I didn't like the menu system. Like, the menu system wasn't very good, and I wasn't a huge fan of the combat in One. It felt old to me. It did.
It did. But when I played it, it did feel old. Now, you know what would be a good game that you might enjoy, and so far I think it's it's because it's on mobile too. Jade Empire.
I do need to give Jade Empire a try.
That one is very good.
I've been meaning to hunt that one down, and I know it's BioWare, so it might be good because it's BioWare, and I still have good feelings about them even after Mass Effect 3.
I don't get the Mass Effect 3 hate.
I can comment on it because I think this is our first time chatting since I've done Mass Effect 3, or at least for the listeners.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So if anyone was curious, the Mass Effect 3 ending was okay. It was fine. It wasn't great. It wasn't. But
where else do you expect this space opera to go? Like, what other fucking ending do you think was going to happen?
I often wonder what people think about that, or in terms of like what they would have done differently. And the only answers I seem to get are there are some people who want a totally happy ending where like
doesn't make sense.
Exactly. I feel like a perfectly happy ending where like everybody is saved, everyone's like all the Reapers are gone, everyone's fine would be bullshit. Like, to me that's the bullshit cop out ending. Either that
that's the Star Fox Assault ending. Everybody's alive, everybody's fine. Game over.
Yeah, but it works. For a Nintendo game, it's fine.
It works for a Nintendo game.
But it's either that or they wanted some like weird, complex, nuance ending that had all these different sort of like it takes from like every little decision you made throughout the trilogy and makes a personalized ending just for you. And it's like you're asking way too much of the devs for that.
That is
Like,
way too much. You know how many
and
endings
plus
there would be?
there would be like dozens of endings. I'm like, do you really want that? Do you really want that? Um,
Uh,
so
the
those are
the
the
ending
only
was
answers I seem to get for the Mass Effect 3 ending. Like, I think it could have been handled or presented a little bit better because it does seem to kind of come out of the blue, no pun intended, and is just kind of eh. Like, it does feel a little slapdash in terms of like you make your choice and then it's like, oh, this happens, you know, that there isn't a huge amount of variation between the three or technically four endings. Fair, but again, I don't know how else you would have done it. Maybe it needed a little bit more writing, a little bit of editing to kind of make it work a little better, but it is what it is. And if they're doing the next Mass Effect, if that's a sequel to 3, which I think it is, that means they have to canonize one of the endings.
I think the canon ending is the one where Shepard lives.
I think so too.
Actually, there's
Because
I think like two or
there's only
three
one.
of the endings he lives if you have the Armada gauge high enough.
If I remember correctly, there's only one. And it like you need the Armada gauge high enough, but I think it's the red ending that is the one where he survives. Because it's the only one I believe that has the very end where it like goes over to the rubble and then you hear like that gasp for like a
Yeah,
second
you see it's
and
like
it goes black. Yeah, I think that's the only one, at least in the research that I did.
Really? Because I thought
So
there
I
were
think
two. I thought it was the one where all the Reapers die. And fuck, what was the other one?
well, red is you kill all the Reapers, but you wipe out all the technology in the galaxy to do so.
That I think that one's gonna be the canon one because they
Yeah,
do hint at the end of the game that they rebuild from wherever everybody else is. They don't
well,
rebuild the relays, but they do rebuild.
if I remember correctly, the one trailer they've done for the next Mass Effect, it feels like that's what they're alluding to. That it is the destroy ending. Everybody's trying to rebuild. There could be a whole storyline where it's like, oh, we're hearing rumors throughout the galaxy of a Shepard-like figure, you know, around, and it could be, you know, your gang trying to find you while at the same time trying to rebuild, and in the process of rebuilding, like these different factions start to appear, and there could be some like, you know, inner conflict and war going on, and people saying, you know, was destroying the Reapers really worth it? Blah 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 blah. Like, there's a lot they could do with it, but
Man,
we're
I
not
can't wait
we're not
to
here to
see.
theorize.
I can't wait to see what happens with that. I need to replay
Take
these
your
fucking
time.
games, dude.
Take your time, BioWare. I'm in no hurry.
I need to quit my job and play all of these games that I have on the backlog because there are
Go Renegade. Go Renegade. Do it.
I should. Every time I play Mass Effect, I go Paragon. I need
Apparently, Renegade's like if you want to speed run the games, you renegade them.
You renegade, yeah.
Because a lot of times it's just you're in the middle of a conversation and Shepard will renegade, be like, "Shut up, let's go,"
Yeah.
and just like you cut the story off.
And like a lot of the missions are like, "Oh, I need you to do this." Renegade option, no. Mission done.
Yeah, and I love that.
Yeah.
So
Anything else, Gears, before we end the show, the episode?
we didn't talk a huge amount of Gears in this, did we?
We talked what we had to talk.
Yeah. Well, as I was saying, like Gears is my favorite Xbox franchise. Well, I definitely need to dive into more of them. And despite what I was saying about Fable 1, I was going to say the bit I played of Fable 2, I actually really liked.
Okay.
So I want to go through Fable 2.
Yeah, you have Game Pass now, so.
Little way. Actually, I have it on the shelf over there.
Even better.
I got the collector's edition, so
Nice.
'cause it was cheap. But yeah, Gears is really good. I can't wait for us to go through the rest of the games, and we'll probably talk about them there as well.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated to see where the series goes from here in terms of what the next game will be. Because as far as I know, Coalition, they're going to do Gears 6. My guess is they'll probably do some other side games with the Gears series. to me it makes sense to keep the series going, but maybe diversify it a little bit. I mean, heck, like a Gears Muso game, do more of the Gears tactics. You could even do like maybe like a stealthy kind of Gears game where you have like a civilian trying to like maybe it's like you have like this civilian messaging system, and you have this person trying to like make their way through like locust hordes without being seen or something. And that you can have it like be more stealth based.
There's a lot.
This is just me off top of my head. Off top of my head.
I feel like there's a lot that can be done with the Gears franchise. But I feel like Cliff pretty much put a pin in it and ended it the perfect way. I think everything got resolved. There's no reason why we should get another Gears game, just like there's no reason why we should get another Uncharted game ever. Because I feel like Uncharted 4 ended perfectly. It tied Nate's story with a bow perfectly. Even though I'm not a fan of the Uncharted games, I think 4 did a great job. And I feel like Cliff did a really good job with tying these games off. The locusts are gone. Marcus gets a semi-bitter, semi-sweet ending. It doesn't have to continue like that. That's it. And they lived happily ever after with nightmares until the day they die. But
happily forever after.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna say that I didn't enjoy what I have played it for, because honestly I did play quite a bit of it. I put like maybe 2 or 3 hours into it, and I did enjoy it, even though it's a lot of robot shooting. I still think it's fine. I think that it still has a solid enough foundation to continue with games. Gameplay wise, story wise, I'm not sure where the hell they're gonna go, but gameplay wise, I have a feeling that they can expand and go places with it.
Well, hopefully when we return at some point, we will have played through the other 3, and we can see where they go with it.
Yeah.
I've heard some interesting opinions about the story, particularly of 5, but I didn't dive too much into it because I am curious genuinely to what happens and the new characters they introduce and how everything kind of connects and sort of tries to tie itself together. But that will be one day in the future.
Yeah. Hopefully at some point this year.
I don't see why not.
Yeah.
Though to be fair, let's see, you want me to beat all the Mega Man Zero games. You want me to do Tales of the Abyss.
I say I want to do that, and you're like, I'll do it. You're the one taking on all this responsibility. So I am not telling you, you have to do this right now.
This is called deferring blame.
No.
Okay? This is the psychological technique where I take all the blame off myself and throw it onto you.
That's either way, be it that you're talking negatively about you or me, that's still some bullshit, dude. This is all your fault.
I know.
So we gave it like a solid 8 to the whole series. It's definitely worth a playthrough. The games, they're campy, they're fun, they're serious, they're emotional, they're manly. I mean, they're fucking fantastic. They are,
and they're enjoyable.
Yeah, and honestly, these are art. I'm gonna say that these are art, just like people say that fucking Grease is art or fucking The Last of Us is art. These are art. These are fantastic games. They tell a story, a well-rounded story, and it is just a joy from start to finish, even in the bleakest of times.
It's funny you mentioned Last of Us. I think every character in this series is better than the characters in Last of Us.
Yeah. I will take Jace over Ellie any day.
Oh hell yes. Absolutely.
Man, we hated Jace.
And that's the thing. The main thing with the Gears of War games, and I think the main thing with any video game, that in some ways has kind of been lost on people, especially in the days of like these big AAA games, is it any fun? Am I having fun playing this game, doing the things? And with Gears of War, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
You know, it is artful and it is artistic, but not in a way that's like shoving it down your throat. It's not trying too hard. It's trying just enough because it knows what it wants to be. It knows the story it wants to tell, and it does that. You know, it doesn't leave a lot ambiguous. It's not trying to like have commentary or anything. Like it could if you look hard enough, but
I mean, like the whole series is like a commentary on how war is bad. But
yeah.
It's not shoved down your throat. It's like, my people are dying, and we got to kill them before they kill ours.
Yeah, it's not convoluted. It's not confusing. It all just works, and it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I had fun with these games. I know you had fun with these games. We had many a fun night, telling stupid jokes
and screaming Brumach.
Silly Marcus Phoenix going Brumach Dom, like doing that. You know, it was great. It was great. It was good old fashioned video game fun.
Yeah, it was a modern day couch co-op beat 'em up but shooter.
Yeah, it perfectly emulates couch co-op online.
Yeah, and this is what every game that has any sort of element like this should have. It should be good and fun to play with a friend.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I guess that's it. We're pretty much done. Otherwise, we're just going to keep talking about other stuff, not Gears. So that's it for this episode. Stay tuned and subscribe to Patreon because more are coming. And if they don't, eventually they will. You want to say goodbye to everyone, Thrak?
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everyone.